Hi, everyone. Welcome to our fireside chat with Marty Greif, President of Site Tuners. Thank you for joining us today. Um, for those of you who are new to these fireside chats, we've had five already during the last couple of weeks. It's basically a service I have put together, talking to friends and colleagues and partners that I do business with that I think are excellent at what they do and that could bring a different perspective to help businesses navigate challenges of COVID-19. In my experience, as you know, over 25 years of experience in corporate America, 3 years owning my own digital agency. So I bring that perspective to your benefit, and my guests bring also years and years and years of perspective. So today I have with me Marty Greif. How are you, Marty? Welcome.
I'm very well, Gerardo. And how are you? Let's start there.
I'm fine. Are you staying safe? During COVID-19. Where are you calling from?
Tampa, Florida. You know, it's funny. The whole question that people always ask, "How are you? How are you?" That's taken on new meaning these days. How are you used to be a throwaway thing that we would say to people, and you weren't listening to the answer. But now it's a real question again. So
Yeah, it's a question with intent. Yeah.
yeah. So we're doing fine. So thank you for asking.
That's great. That's great. And I knew you were doing fine because we do a lot of projects together, and we're friends. So I knew you were doing fine, and I'm very glad that you're navigating well through COVID-19. So Marty, let's jump straight into the conversation. How are you
Sure.
navigating during COVID-19? How's things going?
Well, it's been an interesting, I want to call it 6 weeks or so. We've had some clients who are thriving through this, all right? We've had some that are in deep trouble, and we've had a couple where we've actually been able to help them turn from going to zero to getting back most of their revenue. So we've helped people survive, we've helped people thrive. So it's a wide mix, right, of what's going on here. And
And,
you
and,
know,
and,
it's
and let me just stop you there because I just
sure.
realized we haven't introduced what you do to the audience. So
Oh, my
why don't you
apologies.
why don't you tell us what you do?
So Site Tuners is a conversion rate optimization agency, and basically think of that as we're your persuasion people. So we look at all the different touch points that a client has, and we've done these with a number of clients together, right?
Hmm.
And it's everything from on the website, are people taking the correct actions on it? Is your website, answering the three basic questions, that every user asks? Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? What am I supposed to do here? And as you know, Gerardo, most websites don't even remotely answer those questions
Hmm.
correctly. So
That's true.
when you fix that, people wind up buying and downloading and subscribing and filling in information for leads. So all sorts of goodness happens. But it's not just that, it's all the touch points. What happens when they pick up the phone and call? What happens in the chat? What happens in your transactional and promotional emails? Every single touch point, are you adding value? And so what we do is we help our clients to make sure that every single one of those touch points adds value, regardless of the type of business, and whether they're an e-commerce store, a subscription-based site, information site, a lead gen site, either B2B or B2C. None of it, there are persuasion elements, as you well know,
Hmm.
across all of those. And so it's tuning the levers to make sure that the marketing is more effective, right? So we've been doing that for, well, since 2002, and our clients have ranged from people doing $1 million a year online to multi-billion-dollar corporations and everything in between, right? So we've got the gamut.
And of course, we've worked on a number of projects related to conversion rate optimization, and I can attest for the effectiveness of the consulting. So, you know, for clients that haven't thought about those three questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that probably right now are figuring out that their digital presence is more important than ever because of what's going on with COVID-19. If you were to talk about that to them, if maybe they're not ready to engage on a consulting project, but they are
Mhm.
thinking about those things. What advice would you give them? Where should they start?
Uh, even if they're not ready to engage with something with you or us together, really what they need to do is they really need someone on the outside to take a look at their touch points. Okay,
Mhm.
and it could be a colleague from a previous company, or it could be a friend. But somebody needs to look at it, because the problem is we all get tunnel vision. When we're looking at our websites, when we have these discussions, it is amazing how people go, oh my god, you're right, oh my god, you're right, because they're not used to someone looking at it critically. They're like, they always say, well, this is what our visitors need to know, and the answer is no, that's what you think your visitors need to know. All right, it may not have anything to do with why they're coming there. So that tunnel vision, frankly, cripples most organizations, and that's the benefit of someone from the outside. And again, if you don't want to engage with us, we get that, right? But have somebody on the outside look and say, when you come to our website, is it clear immediately what it is we do? All right. Now, when you look at your website, you go, yeah, of course it's clear, because you know what you do. But get someone who doesn't know what you do and say, tell me what you do. And you will be horrified at the answers that you get from your friends or colleagues. And then the second thing is, well, tell me how you feel about this, and that's a little harder for people, because they don't look at the same things we're looking at. We're looking at trust symbols, something that says, and you can make this up, serving the blah, blah, blah industry for over 3 decades. Well, if you don't have something that says that, or over 1 million satisfied clients, or, certified by the FDA, or, all those are all trust symbols. If you don't have those kind of things, the average person who's a friend is going to look at it and say, yeah, your site looks fine. But then the what am I going to do here question, which again is a hard question, is you say, well, what do you think we want you to do here? And again, you're going to get some weird answers from your friends, right? And if
Mhm.
they have to scroll and search through the pages, okay, you've got a problem. They
Yeah,
should be able to look at whatever pops up on the screen and know who you are, what you do, why they should trust you, and what you want them to do. And if they have to read through things, oh my God, you're already in trouble. Okay.
of course, of course. And also there's the situation that we find with most clients, right? That is, people want to talk about what they do,
Mhm.
but the problem is that clients, their clients, they don't, they're not interested on what you do. They're interested on solving their own problems,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So there's a difference between saying this is what we do versus this is what we can do for you.
Correct.
This is how we can solve your issues,
Correct. And
right?
we actually call that something. We call that greedy marketer syndrome.
Hmm.
Okay. Because you're saying, here's what we do, but again, they don't care. Excuse me. So I'm going to say something really crazy.
Hmm.
We are all selfish. We are literally animals, and we're programmed to survive. And so while we may not be cave people around the fire anymore hunting, okay, we still have those instincts built into us. And let me give you some real life examples of how those instincts come to play. And then I want you to translate that to your website. Okay. So for your visitors, and I've done this, and Gerardo, I'm sure you've done this, even though you're a great guy. Okay, I'm sure you've done this. You've been at a party,
Hmm.
okay, or you're in a meeting somewhere, and you get introduced to 10 people, and you meet John and Joe and Sally and Sue, and 5 minutes later, you don't remember their names. Okay,
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
yeah, because we don't care about them. We're
Yeah,
selfish. Okay.
yeah.
And so the problem is we think about ourselves, we're programmed that way. And then what's the next thing that happens? Okay. You've been at the same party, same meeting,
Uh-huh.
and someone starts talking. Well, I do this and I do that and I do this. And you're thinking, oh, just shoot me already. Shut up.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because the person's talking all about them. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the problem is we don't care about them unless it's something, excuse me, directly related to what we care about.
Hmm.
So it's really focusing on the other person. And if you develop those skills, well, I'll tell you, those skills will help you in business, they'll help you in life, they'll help you become a better parent, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, right? But if you apply that same logic to what's happening on on your website, where it's all about the visitor and it's not about what you want to tell them, you got to find out what they want. And if you find out what they want, what they're looking for, and there's a lot of ways to figure that out, but if you figure that out and you serve up the right information at the right time to the right people, well, that's when the good things happen. That's where you get your sales, your downloads, your subscriptions, and so you can find out why they're coming from user surveys, heat maps, analytics. There's all sorts of tools out there that allow you to figure out what that user intent is, and once you figure out that user intent, and remember, it's not about you, although I said alignment. If you align user intent with their experience with the organization and your company goals, so there's three things. In the middle, if that was a Venn diagram, in the middle is where conversion rate optimization is. In the middle is where your money is, all right? So you obviously have to align your company goals, but it's not about you, it's about them. Solve their problem, they will do what you want them to do. And that's hard for people to get out of that that what we call greedy marketer syndrome, where it's like, buy now, fill out this 20 question form. I mean, nobody wants to do any of that.
True.
But it's hard for us to stop.
And it's about solving problems. Basically what you're saying is solving that problem in a way that suits also the need of the user. In fact, I haven't shared this with you because I just discovered it yesterday. I'm working on this analysis for a client, right? And they're a financial services company, and they asked me to look at what a competitor of theirs is doing that is working really well. They are an online bank, right? And they're trying to grow, and this competitor has driven a lot of market share. And this is in a different country, right? Where there's less trust in digital transactions. And one of the things that I discovered, on top of this competitor doing great things, right? One of the things that I discovered was that while all of the rest of the digital banks are driving people to a landing page and asking them to sign up with their email and their name, right? This competitor is saying, in the CTA, download the app from the App Store now. So basically, it's driving you to the Apple App Store for you to download to your phone. And what that causes is that, first of all, it develops trust, because now I'm not giving up my email and my name to a website that I've just discovered. I'm actually downloading an app. There's a trust element that Apple or Android have vetted that app, and it's not a funny company, right? So I found that, and now they are placed on in front. Now they can start messaging that customer directly to where they are, instead of waiting for them to come to their phone, to their page. So what was very interesting to me was the fact that at a par against other competitors, the services are very similar, but the path to conversion, it's solving an issue that for that country is very important, which is security. Right? So it's taking everything out of giving me your email. It's taking me to a trust store that it's not owned by me, it's owned by Apple, and that's where I do the transaction.
Right. It's funny, and maybe we need to talk more, but we are in the process of doing something similar for US Bank, where we have just redesigned their app, okay, and we're redesigning the website, and it's all about download, and this is going to sound weird, it's download and play, because we've actually gamified banking for them. So in addition to the FDIC trust symbols and all the rest of it, and the fact that they can get the app out of the App Store, either Google Play or the App Store, we've also made it fun, all right? And I'll go a step further, because the target audience here is millennials. Millennials are people that want to know what your community involvement is. We've actually made a big thing about the community involvement and all the give back programs. So it's fun, it's safe, right? And we're involved in the community, and that's the kind of stuff we're doing to take it. And we're doing that in the US. So it's
that's interesting.
So yeah, so it's happening here too, Gerardo.
Yeah. That's fantastic. what do you see any verticals being more affected than others in your experience with the, because I would imagine that, for example, e-commerce sites should
Hmm.
benefit uh, from the current situation. Is that
Some are,
true?
some aren't. Yes, some are, some aren't. Okay, it depends on a couple things. And without going to client names, I can give you a
Of
couple
course.
examples. So we had one client who was, uh, and I'll go from one extreme to the other. We've had one client who uh, was selling information. All right, and they sent me an email that said, without going into the graphic words they used, okay, they said we're in trouble. They said it a little rougher than that,
Mhm.
and I said, well, let's talk. And the problem was that their revenue went to zero, and I went, okay, that's a problem. So we talked about it, and we wound up pivoting for them, and we changed uh, their messaging because their supply chain was broken. All right.
Mhm.
So what we did is we talked about how you can get all this and get in the queue, and we got them back 96% of their revenue within 2 days.
Really?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's one end of the spectrum, right?
Mhm.
The other end of the spectrum is an e-commerce company who also happened to have a chain of stores, physical stores, right? And so while their e-commerce business is still working, okay, their physical stores, they had to shut those all down, all right?
Mhm.
And they lost, a massive amount of, and we've actually had a couple clients where the physical side has completely fallen apart. And then in the middle of that, all right, where we had just an e-commerce only, their traffic went down, their conversion rates went down, everything went down. So we did some tactical redesigns, and we were able to boost up their revenue by an additional 20%. So they went down. We got them 20%. They didn't go to zero, but they were at subsistence level. We got them additional 20%. And so that got them to the point where they're surviving. And now we're working on how do we add more persuasion elements? How do we get them, if not back to where they are, but at least better and prepared for when this goes away. But so those are all on the e-commerce side. Okay. Anyone who's got a physical store, or physical presence, doctors, dentists, you can't go to them unless they're, and it's even doctors, they're canceling appointments unless it's, emergency related. Dentists, unless it's emergency related. Stores, that,
Mhm.
fitness centers, all of this stuff's closing.
Mhm.
So we're trying to help some of them pivot to online. As a matter of fact, here's one for you. We're working with a number of churches. Okay.
Mhm.
Churches are closing
Okay.
down, and we're actually helping them to move to, digital sermons using, Facebook Live as well as Zoom, change their messaging, get more engagement.
Mhm.
We had one pastor that we're working with who, a small congregation, and we increased his engagement by about, uh, I don't know, 2,000%. So he moved to
Mhm.
online, and the number of people attending his sermons has
Mhm.
gone up by 2,000%. Okay, I mean that's huge, right?
It's huge. It's huge. I've um, I've heard about lots of businesses trying to pivot that way. Lots of businesses in fact, uh, you know, I was just talking to my wife and my daughter this morning, right?
Hmm.
And she wears brackets, right? And she,
Hmm.
with brackets, they need to do the adjustments every month, right?
Yeah, the tuning. Yeah.
The tuning. And what do you do now, right? So their doctor, which is I think very very smart, he created a tutorial um,
Hmm.
that he sent on video to all of his
Hmm.
clients, showing how they can actually use different tools at home
Hmm.
to take pictures of
Hmm.
their work, right?
Right. Or
So
the
they can
braces.
send
Yeah.
them exactly. So they can send them to him in a way that he can actually analyze them and provide
Hmm.
them feedback while they can't visit him.
Right.
And I thought that was, and that's a small example, right? This is not
Hmm.
conversion rate optimization, but this is really caring about your customers and trying to pivot to a to a remote relationship.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
right? And adding value and providing that value, which I think we haven't talked about that, but it's one of the things, it's one of the common themes that I've seen coming out of all of these conversations I've been having, which is
Hmm.
this is a time where it's very important to add value to your customers. It's
Right.
probably not the time to try to close fast deals.
Oh,
It's,
God, no.
right?
Yeah.
It's that time where you're helping,
Hmm.
waiting for build that trust, and hopefully
Hmm.
all of that is gonna come back at some point. Would you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, I agree completely. And we have a saying, okay? This is what we tell all our clients. And frankly, this is what I know you do. You give before you get, okay?
Hmm.
And it's really if you can help people, I can't tell you how much we're doing for free for people, and I know you're doing it too.
Hmm.
You give before you get. If you can help people, now's the time. We're all in this together. So we've helped a number of people, trying to transform their businesses. And in some instances, if they were in deep trouble, like the business I told you went to zero, we said, all right, they were a retainer client. I immediately said, don't worry about your retainer. We're going to work for free. All right.
Hmm.
And then we got back to 96% in 2 days, and they said, well, I think we should be paying you. And I went, yeah, that's probably true. Okay. So, but my first reaction, because I didn't know we could help them until I analyzed their problem. I didn't know what it was. So obviously we had to help them,
Of course.
and we had to do it for free, right? You give before you get. But
Hmm.
once we got them back, well, then they went, of course we need to do that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the same thing's happening, when I was talking about that e-commerce company that lost it and we got them 20%. Again, we went, all right, let's stop. We immediately made some changes. They're happy and they're sticking with us to actually do more. All right.
Hmm.
On the other hand, we've also done some things like, I was talking about that pastor, we did that for free. Okay. Some of
Hmm.
these churches, I mean, they're saying poor as a church mouse. I don't
Hmm.
completely understand the saying, but the concept is, they have no money, right now, and they're hurting. So we've helped, I think, three different, religious organizations to pivot right now, and we haven't charged them. All right.
Of course,
Uh,
of course.
you give before you get. Okay. It's the right thing to do. And this is
Is the
true.
right thing to do.
I don't
And
care
I know
what
you,
your business is, you got to
and I
do
know
it.
you were doing that before too. We've been.
Well, yeah, but it's more so now. You
It's
always
more so
give before
now.
you
Yeah.
get. I mean, there's a difference. People are suffering. Okay. So you got to do more of that now. I mean, now again, you can't help everybody, right? I mean, we had a client who had, an amusement kind of park, kind of, attraction. Well,
Hmm.
he was growing, multi-million dollar business. Well, nobody can go there now. I can't fix that.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now he has a small e-commerce presence, which we help with, but it pales in comparison to
Of
you know,
course.
to the on-site stuff. There's limits to it, but again, we're still helping him because when he comes back, and I hope it all recovers when he comes back, he'll be well positioned to really take advantage of everything. So do I charge him now? Of course not.
Hmm.
He's worried about paying as much of his staff as he can, right now. Am
Hmm.
I going to put my hand out? No. I mean, come on.
Of course, it's not.
So,
And I know. I mean, we talked about. You started talking about the importance of human relationships, and I've
yeah,
seen you operate, for the last 3 years, and
right.
that's something that it's very clear in your engagement with everybody. I mean, you're a generous guy, and you put the other person always first, and this is. And I'm not surprised. This is how you're dealing with this. So Marty, tell me something. Are there any best practices that businesses could use right now in your mind that to help them either be better positioned for when business comes back or try to stabilize their business? And any best practices that you can point out to?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'm going to say is stop being tone deaf. I mean, oh my God, there are so many businesses who they haven't changed their advertising, they haven't changed their website. There's nothing out there that talks about what's going on. People are suffering, and if you're saying the same old, okay,
Hmm.
then you're being tone deaf. One of the things that I've seen out there, because I was thinking about a new car, right?
Hmm.
So as you know, when you go to websites, they follow you around on, Facebook and Google and everywhere. So I'm seeing new messaging from all sorts of car dealerships that are talking about everything from shop online and we will deliver the car for you for a test drive. We will disinfect it. You could, 0% financing coming from some of these, so they're basically taking what's going on and addressing people's concerns, both financially and the idea that, you don't want to catch this. We're still open. Here's how we're disinfecting for you, right? And so I thought, and I've seen a lot of car dealerships do that. And I think that kind of acknowledging what's going on, absolutely makes, a ton of sense. All right.
Okay.
Don't be tone deaf. That's
Okay.
number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would say is, and this goes back to what we were just talking about, Gerardo, you know, if you have the ability as a company, all right, to help somebody, and it's not going to drive you into bankruptcy, what goes around comes around. Help people; they will remember that later on. All
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
and even if they never wind up as a client, because I'm not saying you're doing this to get a client later. I'm saying you're doing this because it's the right
The
thing.
right thing to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're doing things, you're helping people. Maybe they become a client later on. Maybe they talk to somebody else that actually isn't having trouble right now. We've gotten all sorts of referrals lately from people, from existing clients, to brand new people in some industries that actually aren't having issues. Like insurance company. So insurance isn't having some issues. Some of the legal professions not having issues. We've got finance that's not having some issues. So it depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're delivering services. A lot of software companies that are in a SaaS model, software as a service, where they've got recurring revenue, they're not an issue. So, we're getting introductions to interesting people that, maybe a little affected, but they want to, take this time to go to the next level. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, again, give before you get, and what goes around does indeed come around, right?
Of
So,
course. Of course. Of course.
I mean, we
So
shouldn't have to tell people this,
I
honestly.
know. I know. So best practices. You mentioned. Don't be tone deaf,
Yes,
right?
right.
And help people.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two. And then if your organization, again, you can't fix everything, right? If your organization can pivot to, online, which we're helping a number of people to do,
Mm-hmm.
great. That certainly makes sense. But if you're really a brick and mortar kind of company and you can't pivot per se, but your web presence is important, and you have the resources, take the time to go through all of your touch points to make sure that they are optimized for when this gets better. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, and this, right?
Of
We've talked
course.
about this for years. Here's the thing. If you have 100 people that come to your website every day, or 1,000 or 10,000, doesn't matter what the number is, the math's the same. If you have 100 people that come to your website, and normally one of them takes the desired action, they buy or they download or whatever, that's a 1% conversion rate, right? And if you spend, $1,000 to get one of those people, one conversion, your cost per acquisition is $1,000.
$1,000. Yeah.
Right. But if you take your conversion rate and you fix the things on your website, okay, and you make that one now two, which is 100% improvement in conversion rate, it's now $500, dollars per acquisition. So here's the question: what's better, to take that $1,000 that you're spending to get one acquisition and double your spend to 2,000 to get two sales or two
Mm-hmm.
leads? Or is it better to fix your touch points so that you get two and you're only still spending that same 1,000, which
Mm-hmm.
increases the profitability? Most people just don't do that. They just throw more money at things. But
Mm-hmm.
now's the time not to be throwing more money at things. Now's the time to fix the website so that whatever money you're spending is actually, driving the best return for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now's the time to dig in and not throw money at more advertising. And I'm not saying stop your advertising. I'm saying make your advertising more
More
effective.
effective.
Make your website more effective.
Mhm.
Now's the time.
And just for the benefit of our listeners, we're not talking. You use the term website very loosely, right? Because
Yes.
you're talking about your digital customer acquisition process. So the
Yes.
website is the most evident part, but
Yeah.
it's your, once people come into your CRM, all of the touch points, right? The
Yes.
email drips that you send out,
Yep.
the connection between the campaign that
Hmm.
you're having, the upstream campaign, and the landing page where people arrive, right? That
Hmm.
everything, it's connected and makes sense. So
Oh yeah.
we're not talking about fixing just the website. The website is a central part of it, but you're talking about fixing all of those touch points
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
that to
absolutely
increase
all.
that
But
conversion.
most people think website, which is why I tend to say
I know,
website.
I
But
know,
you're
I know.
absolutely right. I mean, for example, we helped one client. They had their website, and we optimized that. But people would call in to, they had a little bit of a call center. So we looked at what was on the website. We put together a training for the call center, and we increased the conversion rate of the call center by 15%. Okay,
Hmm.
which was millions of dollars, right,
Hmm.
for this
Hmm.
company. So you know that's a touch point. We fixed their chat, which increased conversions.
Hmm.
We've also looked at, I mean, we've got examples where we bought product from people. They had a product, they ship a product, and we get this box, and it's like, it looks like Who Did It in Rain. You open it up, they threw stuff in a box.
Hmm.
They gave the client no love when they got the box. There was no
Hmm.
reason why I'd want to reorder. There's no reason why I'd say, oh, to my friends, look at what I got. I mean, because
Hmm.
it looked awful, right? So every touch point is an opportunity to, increase your conversions, increase your referrals, increase your average order value, increase, your retention. All of this matters,
Hmm.
and that's where conversion rate optimization, or what we like to call it, just persuasion, okay, and
Hmm.
giving clients love and giving your visitors love. That's the stuff that they'll remember. It's delighting people, not just going, oh, you bought something, here you go.
Here you go. Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. It's and I've seen you do this with with projects we've worked on. It's almost like a game of whack-a-mole, right? You
Yeah,
just
oh,
look at
yeah.
what you know.
Yeah.
Once you hit one, another one pops up, and
Right.
that's the next one you're working on, and
Yes.
you're fixing all of these little issues
Yeah.
across the whole value chain of your service.
Right. Yeah. And so let's go back to that example of of working with the call center.
Hmm.
We didn't start there, and we've actually worked with multiple call centers, but we don't start there. First, we had to look at, what's going on your website. When people land, are they in the right place? Do they feel good about it? Do they know what they're supposed to do? We fix that, right?
Hmm.
And then we look at the upstream messaging also, and we say, is that aligned to landing pages, to the website, and so on? And so we're looking at everything from what we call PPC for conversion, to content for conversion, or to SEO for conversion. It's all about alignment. Well, here's the thing. As you start to fix those touch points, suddenly you go, well, what's happening when they're calling in now? Is that matching the messaging matching there, what's on the website? But if the website or their emails were a mess, you're not going to align the call center to a mess. First, you got
Hmm.
to fix, it's step by step by step. You fix one thing, and that's your whack-a-mole. Because now
Hmm.
all of a sudden the call center, oh my God, we got to fix that now. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or the instance, we fixed the website and we fixed the transactional emails, but they send us a box, and it's like, oh my God. Or they're sending us a subscription to something online, and it's like, who put that together? Your 5-year-old? I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
come on. All right.
I know,
So
I know.
so it's piece after piece after piece.
Of
So
course, of course. So you talked about the three questions that are answered
mhm,
when somebody gets to a site, right? Am I in the
mhm,
right place? How do I feel about this site? And what do I do next, right?
mhm, mhm,
So if you were to give a piece of advice to fix those three questions for somebody who's listening,
mhm.
it, when they're looking at their site, how do they evaluate those three questions?
Well,
if
again,
they're trying to look at their site and do some of the things that you're
it's
talking about.
really hard for someone to do it for themselves. Okay,
Okay.
but there's a couple things that you can do that most people make these mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've got your logo up in the top left hand corner, which most people do, all right,
Mm-hmm.
underneath the logo should be 6 to 10 words that actually describe what it is you do. And the reason it's under your logo is because you don't know what page they're going to land on, right? And so if it's in the header, they're going to see it on every page. So in those 6 to 10 words, it might be, if you're a local business serving the greater Atlanta, for dentistry for 10 for 2 decades, or over 1 million satisfied clients, dental clients, or again, I'm making stuff up because everyone's different, but 6 to 10 words that really come to the heart of not just what you do, but why they should trust you. Okay.
Okay.
So that's when someone lands and they look at that, because people read top left to bottom,
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay, this is what they do, right? That's the simplest thing. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing that you should do that's simple is don't have your site with a big picture, and don't use sliders, because yeah, that, and there's all sorts of studies as to why that doesn't work. Just have a banner that says, again, who you do in a little bit more detail, who you are in a little more detail, and answer the question, what's in it for me as a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I feel about this? Well, if we've done that, that right 6 to 10 words where it says we do this for over 2 decades, or over 50,000 clients, or over whatever we said, that's some trust. But put your phone number in the top right hand corner. Okay. And if you want, put your hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, whatever it is. Real companies have the phone number in the top right hand corner. We've tested that. I can't tell you how many times. That is the number one trust symbol on the planet. Real companies have a phone number in the top right hand side. And the same thing's true for mobile. All right, again, the 6 to 10 words, you can, as long as you've got the call to click icon with the phone number, because it's real, you don't have to show the phone number, it's just there, we're good. And again, no rotating banners, just something that really explains what we do. And then what are we supposed to do here? Again, it's not about you. All right. If they're shopping for, if you're an e-commerce site, don't put up your best sellers. Okay. Because you have no idea if they want your best sellers. It might be shopped by industry, or shopped by men's clothes, women's clothes, children's clothes. It might be shopped for if you are, if you're serving dentists and doctors and lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
let me self-identify who I am and go down the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Make it about me and the things I care about, not about, you and what you want them to be. Does that make sense,
Mm-hmm.
Gerardo?
Of course. Of course.
The problem is every site's different, and that's why I really strongly recommend that people, and I don't want to sound self-serving, but they should reach out to you, and talk to you about this stuff, because you're going to look at their site a lot different than they are. And while I suggest friends and colleagues, that's great, but they're not trained like you and I are,
Mm-hmm.
or our teams are. They really should spend 20 minutes with Gerardo and team, and figure out, does it make sense? Can with, because you'll give some people some free advice, right?
I'm
And
giving free advice right now.
yeah,
Yes, but
yeah. So of
I
course,
do. I'm like you, and I've learned that from working together. That the most important thing on that discovery call is to show what we can do, right, and add some value. And I love your expression. If they fall in love with what we do for free,
yeah,
why why wouldn't they want to pay? They
yeah,
can't wait to
yeah,
pay us to see what they're gonna get when they pay, right? So, but
yeah.
but to your point, and this is not a sales pitch. Yes, I mean, reach out, to us, or I'm sure if you already have, if listeners already have agencies they're working with, reach out to them, right, and reach out to experts
Hmm.
the same way you wouldn't dare to sign a contract without reaching out to a lawyer,
Hmm.
or even a lawyer friend,
Hmm.
even if you don't want to start engaging with a lawyer. In the same way, you should treat your digital presence and your sites, right?
Right.
Because there's an expertise associated with it, and you're gonna make you're gonna reap the benefits of working with somebody who can give you real advice.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, the only thing I say is if you have an existing agency, what you need to do is if they talk to you about, you know, and forgive me for saying this, but if they talk to you about, well, your brand is this, and you need to have big images, and you need to make it look pretty, and
True.
no, no, that's the wrong message. It really has to be, based on who's coming to your website and what they're looking for. If
Mhm.
they're not having that discussion with you and they're talking about more advertising or SEO to drive traffic, and they're not focused on how to actually convert those people coming, you need to force them to have that conversation.
Mhm.
Agencies will fall back on the things they're comfortable in. There's lots of agencies that do SEO or they do PPC or they do branding with pretty stuff. I get that, but you got to force them out of their comfort zone to talk about conversion rate optimization, because frankly, if you don't improve all of your touch points so that that messaging is aligned, you're wasting money on PPC, SEO, branding. I'm not saying none of those things are important. They are important. They're all important. But step one is you have to optimize for the visitors so that you're aligning that user intent with their experience and your company's goals. If you're not having that discussion with your agency, you need to basically slap them and get them to have that discussion.
I agree. I called it performance marketing. What you call, you call it conversion rate optimization, which I think it's exactly it's exactly what you described. But
Mm-hmm.
think about it as performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a past world where I was, I've managed creative services
Mm-hmm.
teams. We've done advertising campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
and in a world where we didn't have all of the tools to really measure performance,
Mm-hmm.
creativity was paramount, right? So you were coming up with a great idea, and
Mm-hmm.
still great ideas, great creative ideas are important because they are the starting point. They're the stimulus for somebody to look into you as a brand. So I get that. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just talking about ideas and creativity and design, you're
Mm-hmm.
missing the boat, because
Mm-hmm.
really it's all about performance. The idea
Yeah.
has value as long as it can convert into an action, a desired action
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
that you're looking for, right? So uh, with your agencies, and again, advice to people listening to this, really have a conversation about performance. Have a conversation about how is this driving business for me? How is this
Yeah.
idea actually? And sometimes the problem is not with the idea, is
Mm-hmm.
with the system that has been built around that idea to drive
Mm-hmm.
that conversion. So I'm not also saying judge ideas
Mm-hmm.
based on how they perform. It might be that the idea is fantastic, but you just haven't done the work, or the agency haven't done the work to drive that idea all the way down to
Yeah.
performance for you.
Actually, let me give you a concrete example of that. So years ago, I was director of marketing in a publicly traded, um, um, multi-million dollar company. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. And when I joined them, they showed me one of their creative pieces, and this is they actually did a direct mail piece,
Mm-hmm.
and they got this beautiful piece. I mean, it was just gorgeous, right? And if you filled it out, a form, either online or whatever, they would send you a thesaurus. And they were so pleased with themselves. They got a 7.5% response rate, and they were thrilled. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked the following questions: how many of those people that filled out the form became sales cycles?
Mm-hmm.
None. Okay. How many became like real leads? We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at it and I said, because they were selling high performance database management systems. So we found a book on high performance database management systems, and we reached out to the author and I said, can we give away a chapter of your book? And we had to pay for it. Okay. And so we kept all the same creative, because their creative concepts were beautiful. I mean, really well done. All right. But instead of giving away a thesaurus that people went, yeah, sure, I'll take a thesaurus, we gave away a chapter on high performance database systems. So I'm selling high performance database systems, and I'm giving you a chapter on it from a noted author. So here's the thing: anybody who wants a thesaurus, who knows what their intent is. But if you want a chapter on high performance database systems, either you have no life and you're really bored, okay? Or you're a
You're
prospect,
looking
you're
for one.
looking for
Yeah.
high performance database management systems, and there's a third choice. You're looking for high performance database management systems, and you have no life in your board. I mean, but two out of
Exactly.
three are still pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was the take rate on that went down to about 1.5% from 7%. But guess what? We had real sales cycles now. And not only did we measure that, we then made sure that the leads went out to the sales force, and
Mhm.
we measured region by region what their close ratios were. So we knew all the way from the creative all the way to the close ratio. And I will never forget being in a meeting with the VP of sales and one of his regional directors, who told me that the leads were garbage and then there was nothing in there. And he said, so that's interesting because every other region has closed business out of it. So we went through a review with him. He basically didn't follow up on any of the leads, and he
Oh.
wound up, yeah, he lost his job in that meeting, right?
Oh
Because
wow.
you're talking about performance.
Hmm.
It's knowing what's working. You're measuring your marketing qualified leads, your sales qualified leads, your deals. You measure everything, okay?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so the reason I bring this all up, it goes to your point. This is truly aligning user intent, okay,
Hmm.
with their experience and your company goals. I mean, that is a perfect example, a real life example that generated millions upon millions of dollars,
Of
right?
course, of course, of course. Well, that's a great example, and I think to that note, I'd love to we're 47 minutes into the call, so
Mm.
I'd love to start to wrap up. And
Sure.
so we talked about think about user intent, why people care about their problems, not
Hmm.
about what and what not about what you do. So think about what you can do for them to solve their problems,
Exactly
right?
right. Hmm.
We talked about the importance of showing some trust factors, right? Show
Hmm.
that you're real, phone
Hmm.
number, logos,
Hmm.
statements, all of those things, right?
Hmm.
uh, we talked about fixing conversion by looking at one problem at a time and fixing it. So it's like a game of whack-a-mole, and you're going from
Yep.
one to the other. We talked about
Yep.
giving before taking.
Hmm.
Did I miss anything? Did I forget anything?
And don't be tone deaf.
And don't be tone deaf. And
Yeah.
don't be tone deaf. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Marty, if people want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Well, here's the thing. People are always welcome to go to sitetuners.com.
Hmm.
Gerardo, I mean, you and I are a team on here,
I know.
so I would strongly recommend people reach out to you. All right, and either one of us, and we'll make sure that we help you. Right. So
Yeah.
let so hopefully everybody who's seen this webinar, they have your contact information, right?
They do have my contact information, and they might not know that we work on, as a partnership on many, with many clients, and we bring different things to the table. So I appreciate you recognizing that. I think that's a great thing about being part of this great network that we have
Oh,
together.
absolutely. Yeah.
um, but I know you also provide, you do conferences. You're a keynote speaker to many conferences.
Hmm.
If somebody wants to, wants you to talk about the importance of conversion,
Sure.
you're available for that too, right?
Yes, on our website, if you look at the About Us, you can actually book an appointment with me to talk about speaking engagements. All right.
Mhm.
It's basically under on my page with my picture. It's embarrassing, but I've got my hands out like
Yeah,
this.
you're
But
like
yeah,
this.
yeah, I know, I know. So, but yeah,
Fantastic.
people can book an appointment to talk about engagements and speaking engagements.
Of
So,
course, of course.
all right,
Well, Mari, thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. This talk is going to be recorded. We're going to be sharing it. It's going to become a podcast too, so we're going to be distributing it as well. I'm
sure.
sure it's going to help a lot of people. If we out of these conversations, if we can just help one person, I think we've achieved the purpose.
Yeah.
And as always, it's a pleasure. And I'm sure we're going to be talking very soon, because we're talking almost almost every
All the
couple of
time.
days.
So it's all good. Yeah. So like you've just said, if we can be of assistance to anybody, reach out. Let's see if we can help you, not just survive through this, but potentially even thrive if we can. All
Of
right.
course, of course. So everybody stay safe. Marty, stay safe as well.
You
And
too.
we'll be talking. Thank you,
Sounds good.
everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.